Thank you, Greg. Monday's Iowa caucuses were almost over before they started. About half an hour after the caucusing began, most networks had already called a huge win for Donald Trump, who topped his closest competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, by 30 percentage points.
This is the third time we've won, but this is the biggest win. They said, well, if you win by 12%, that's a big win. That's going to be very hard to do. Well, I think we've more than doubled that, I guess, tripled it maybe.
The former president's victory in Iowa with 51% of the votes is reportedly the largest in Iowa caucus history. During his victory speech, Trump called on the unification of the country.
This is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together. Whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative, it would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world.
CBS News reports exit polling showed evangelicals and very conservative voters were a big part of Trump's win. Fourth place finisher Vivek Ramaswamy gracefully, with just 7% of the vote, announced Monday night he would end his campaign and support Trump.
And earlier tonight, I called Donald Trump to tell him that I congratulate him on his victory, and now going forward, he will have my full endorsement.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis finished second with 21% of the vote, trailed by South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who has 19%. Both of them announced they are staying in the race and looking forward to New Hampshire. Neither of them congratulated Trump on a historic win. Mike?
Iowa, you wrote an article on thefederalist.com today stating that Ron DeSantis failed spectacularly in Iowa. Did he ever really have a chance to win there?
Whether he had a chance to win there is an open question, but he went about his campaign all wrong by attacking Donald Trump, by seeing Donald Trump as his main opponent, and by extension, attacking Trump voters. If you want to win over Trump voters, people who have voted twice, in many cases, for Trump in presidential elections, you can't malign the former president. You can't use every opportunity to insult or denigrate him, which is exactly what DeSantis did. He needed to understand that the real opponent here is the Democrat machine that's trying to keep Trump off the ballot, trying to put Trump in prison. These are really serious threats to the Constitution. If he had focused on that and let his record in Florida be an implicit comparison to Trump, I think he would have done much better.
Interesting. Now, Joy Reid said there was a major flaw in the Iowa caucuses. Here it is.
These are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, yes, especially tonight.
Reid said evangelical Christians from this, quote, hyper-evangelical white state believe other Americans are fraudulent Americans. John, is that a fair assessment of people in Iowa?
No, it's not a fair assessment of people anywhere. It's frankly racist. Look, if you want to talk about overrepresentation, I guess the whole country is overrepresented by white Christians, since white people are the majority and Christians are still, for now, the majority. But no, this is the typical kind of racism that we see that's increasingly becoming mainstream on the left and just sort of spewed on corporate media outlets like MSNBC and people like Joy Reid. It's really ugly.
You wrote a great article on thefederalist.com. I encourage people to go there, entitled "Why the Democrats Can't Admit the Border is Spinning Out of Control." What's stopping them from doing that?
Because they would have to admit that it's their fault, right? The border under Trump was largely under control. Biden came into office. He reversed a whole host of Trump policies that had got the border under control. And now we see these record numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the border, with more on the way. December was the worst month for crossings ever in U.S. history. And so if they admit that the border is out of control, they have to admit that it's their policies that did it, their policies and nothing else. It's not climate change. It's not anything overseas. It's what they did. And that is a bridge too far for them, because they would have to reverse course and really adopt a lot of the policies that they repudiated when Trump left the White House.
They're going to have to admit it, though, as the election goes forward. That was the number one thing that Iowa was saying, that was the border. So they're going to have to admit it at some point.
Absolutely.
John Daniel Davidson, Federalist.com. Sir, thanks for taking the time to be with us today and your insight.
Thanks for having me.